everybody, to the fifth. No, it's not the fifth.
It's the sixth.
It's the sixth
There we go.
episode. And also the most unprepared episode of This Week Online so far. Today, we, as always, have multiple topics for you. Whoa, discussion show with multiple topics. So we're talking about the ongoing saga of TikTok trying to stay in the US. Please don't ban me. We're talking about James Charles versus Teddy Fresh, who is associated with H3H3, over the dispute of a very similar color block designed hoodie. And we'll also try to wrap up in the same conversation the Big Jack and the Big Mac dispute, because it's kind of similar. Joe Rogan and his Spotify deal. People in Sweden aren't happy at Spotify HQ. And unfortunately, we're also going to be talking about Cuties. Very unfortunate. I don't really want to talk about it, but here we are.
Yeah, the entire time we've been preparing for this episode, even when we were mentioning what to talk about, we've always been saying no one wants to talk about this, but it's something that has to be mentioned.
Yeah, unfortunately. I really don't want to do that part. Okay. However, let's lift the mood a little bit. Let's talk about what's been keeping our attention this week. As always, Prad, you go first.
Yeah, so two things for me this week. Number one is a fan-made set of short films or short shows, episodes. I don't know what to call them. It's called Operation Charity Falls. And this is a short miniseries that's based off of the Halo franchise.
Sounded like it.
Sorry?
I said it sounded like it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've heard that name before.
The reason you might have heard of it is because of the ship that it's designed around is called High Charity.
Yes, that would be it.
Yeah, so each episode is only around 1 to 2 minutes long, but the visuals and the sound effects and everything, this is entirely fan-made. It all seems at a pro level, honestly. I cannot believe that this is being released for free.
On YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. The first 2 episodes are out. There's a lot of behind the scenes, so to say, stuff that's out. But my goodness, the level that it's being produced to is really insane.
That's one of the things I love about YouTube is that it offers people who are insanely creative and very skilled to do these sort of fan-made things that would never get picked up anywhere else.
No, no one else is going. No TV station is going to pick up a 2-minute episodes a week or however whenever this is released, kind of program schedule. But this is out and it's quite popular. And again, the level of work put into this is just it's amazing. I don't want to give away anything of the story, but it really makes you feel like you're playing Halo 1 and experiencing certain things again for the first time. Cool. So that's really impressive. And the other thing that you might actually find interesting here, Jacob, is there's a public speaking expert named David J.P. Phillips who's been analyzing a lot of YouTubers, mannerisms when they're talking about, most recently he talked about Jacksepticeye, who we've mentioned before on the podcast. And he mentioned how he keeps his fans entertained and enticed, and quite a few interesting things there. For example, the way he tilts his head makes him seem like he cares more. The way he speaks when he always changes his volume, it can potentially be causing to a certain extent, a fear factor, which sort of surprises the viewer every single time. So sometimes you'll have a video on the side while you're doing something, and it's because he keeps on changing his volume, you're like, oh, something's happening. Oh, I'm still watching. Oh, I'm still watching. And he just keeps you watching because not only does he have energy, but he also has a lot of interesting stuff he talks about. And so he's finding it interesting. And then when he's talking about it, he raises his volume, which keeps you interested in what he's talking about. So
yeah, so he's like an anamorphic poke machine for 13-year-olds.
Just about, yeah. I mean, he's an Irishman. What do you expect?
Yeah, pretty much.
but-
and he used to have green color hair, which also ticks the box for like visually stimulating, in the sense of what humans look for.
But yeah, it's really interesting stuff to look at, like just how you can, even if you're not looking to improve your public speaking, just some random tips here and there that can, honestly, in like any conversation, can help.
Yeah, except I wouldn't be screaming at your next PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, just you watch, mate. Just you watch.
Just you watch.
Top of the morning.
So for me, it's the best time of the month because a channel very dear and near to my heart, Dashcam Owners Australia, has released not but 5 days ago their monthly compilation of people being idiots on the road. And I always look forward to this. I put everything else aside as soon as I realize it's out. I really do look forward to this. It's just good entertainment. I also love it when people leave their dash cams microphone on because you get some insight into what they are. Like, you might hear somebody listen to a certain podcast, you might realize that this is a very classic 2GB radio listener, like with the last episode where there was like bloody Ray Hadley in the background, and then somebody was stuck in the middle of the intersection for no reason. And for whatever reason, the woman in the car decided to say to the man in the car, "Oh, but he's Asian." Which, like, you could tell that she was like meant it in a concerned manner. It's like, they can't help it, but that's worse. But it's also very classic 2GB. So, I love that the human stereotype was pointing towards other stereotypes.
Yes.
Nothing like a good bit of, I don't know, what would you call it? It's irony. It is just irony.
Yes.
Who doesn't like a bit of irony? So, absolutely check that out if you like people crashing into each other. Because you just sit there going like, "Oh," or like, "What an idiot, man. Fucking could have clearly seen that coming, dumbass." So
if you want to feel superior to someone.
Oh yeah, it's like I would have never made that mistake.
Not a
it's,
chance.
It's like, did you ever watch like talent shows with your parents on TV when you're younger? Like Australia's Got Talent, or
sure, let's say I did.
You did it at all?
Not really. No, we didn't watch much TV.
Okay, fair. I remember watching So You Think You Could Dance with my parents, and this is quite a few seasons in at this point, right? And that's when you start to think, "Oh, I know everything about dancing."
Oh boy,
my dad just goes, It's like my dad goes, "No, that wasn't a very good pirouette." I'm like, "What the fuck have you ever done a pirouette?" Anyway, on that note, let's move into our first topic, which I guess is also a very bad pirouette. Because nothing ever makes sense. And that was a terrible analogy. So let's move past it. So the ongoing saga of TikTok trying to not be banned from the United States continues.
Yes. This should be the short miniseries that's being released on YouTube.
Honestly, I'm kind of getting sick of talking about it. It's just new stupidity each week.
So just to recap the situation real quick. TikTok accused of stealing information by Trump. Trump says, "Hey, if you don't stop stealing information by giving your entire company to an American company, we're going to get rid of you entirely." China has been, well, not just China, but ByteDance has been trying to make a lot of moves to avoid that. And this is probably just the most recent in that they did earlier in the month or earlier in this year suggest that make it seem like they were selling to Microsoft or Oracle, and in the end it was a partial sale to Oracle. A certain part of their operations was sold to Oracle, but no one even knows if that was true. And then
Yeah, it's so it would actually what happened is that shortly after we spoke about the potential sale to Oracle, um, the other week, and then we said, "Oh, hang on a second, it wasn't actually a sale." ByteDance is confirmed. Like I think it was like the day after.
Not even
the
the day
episode.
after. It was like a couple of hours after they said essentially.
Yeah. They said it came out that Walmart and Oracle were now to have minority stakes in this newly announced subsidiary called TikTok Global, which is all in the effort of keeping the current US administration happy. Because it's okay for US social media companies to steal vast swaths of information from a large amount of the public, not just in one country, but globally, but not for somebody who isn't aligned with the US, right? Despite how you feel about TikTok, right? They're not really doing a whole lot more than Facebook is.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like that should be more of the conversation. The fact that America is doing the exact same thing as China is to the rest of the world, but America gets to get away with it and essentially force China a Chinese app to what's your word for it?
Kowtow
to what they want. Essentially say, hey, you're making profits from this app. That's not allowed. We have to make profits from the app now. Thanks.
Yeah. And they didn't care until it became like the biggest social media platform.
Yeah.
Essentially. Although at least the fastest growing. So, yeah. So this sale, and it would seem that since the last time I checked in on it, which was like 3 days ago, the situation has changed again.
Yes.
Right? So it went from, it's confirmed that this will be a separate like a subsidiary, but separate at the same time. It will be based in the US, and all the data will be stored in the US at this new subsidiary. It was said that neither Walmart and Oracle will have access to the magic source that is TikTok, the algorithm, it must be like $6 trillion algorithm at this point, or whatever it was evaluated as. And that was pretty much it. Like they could, like like Oracle and Walmart could look at the code, but they wouldn't have the right to keep it. It's then flipped again. And now Oracle says that they have 80% ownership, and then Walmart and Oracle duke it out for the remaining 20%. And that the subsidiary will be owned by, ByteDance, TikTok's parent company. And they won't be able to get a look at the algorithm at all. However, it would seem that the vice president of Oracle says something kind of different, which is we will have it came down to the point, like it came down to a decimal point of the ownership, or something like 17.4%. 16.4% to us, or something like that, to Oracle.
Yeah.
And then the remainder to Walmart. And that they will be privy to a whole bunch of things that TikTok said they wouldn't be. It's just weird. Like,
it is really
there are 3 companies involved, and all of them have conflicting stories. And it changes by the hour.
It really, you know what it feels like? It feels like that Google versus Australian media situation where like one company was saying 50 billion, another was saying 10 million, and some other company was saying 6 million. It's like no one actually knows what's happening.
No. It's it almost kind of feels deliberately tricky.
I mean, yeah, of course it is. Like the more complicated it is, the less people understand, and the less one company can screw the entire deal to their benefit.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing: like, it apparently will appease the Trump administration. I don't know if it will, because the 2 American firms have very little control. Oracle's vice president says it will have a majority of them will be on the board of directors will be American, including the CEO of both
Oracle and Walmart.
Walmart and Oracle. And then obviously you would have the CEO of ByteDance on the board as well.
Which makes sense.
I think TikTok said, or rather ByteDance said a similar situation. But like, even then there was conflicts in that as well. It's just the whole thing is ridiculous. I don't know how it's obvious that ByteDance doesn't want to do anything about this.
I mean,
right?
The thing is, if I'm being honest, look, I, just like everyone else, don't like, there's a lot of things to not like about China. I probably also don't like the fact that they steal our information, but I still use Facebook. I still use Instagram. If I ever do get on TikTok, look, the reason that I don't use TikTok is never because of the information that they steal. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just because I don't have any interest in using it. The
platform itself. Yeah, it doesn't appeal to you.
So, but it's not like I care who's stealing my information. And at the end of the day, if it stays as a Chinese application or if it's moved to America, I wouldn't care either way. I would maybe not use it because I would probably, maybe if I do start using it, again, whether America owns it or China owns it does not impact my decision.
No, I don't think it, like, what's it? It's
probably the same for the younger users on it, who are the majority. Like they don't care whether, because at the end of the day, they've been using the app for ages. They're still using the app, because the information that the grown-ups are worried about China taking, they're probably still taking it.
Like this whole that Chinese social media bad but American social media good. Like it's just the pot calling the kettle black.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's so frustrating. Can we just stop? Like we don't. Who cares? Like
who cares?
If you're cool, if you use Google steals your information and sells you ads.
And if I don't want to get too political, but there was a Democratic candidate, Andrew Yang. He was essentially saying we should stop making it stealing and instead making it selling, so that we actually get some amount of payback for the data that's being taken.
Oh man,
that seems like the best.
That's an interesting idea, but I don't know how that would work without it being a complete mess.
I mean, 100% it would be a mess in the beginning, but if given how much information we are giving away freely,
that's true.
These companies don't need any more charity.
Yeah. Fair.
I would be happy to get some. I doubt we in Australia would get any amount back on the information that Google is taking from us, but maybe some Americans would benefit from that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say one thing is that Australia is often used as a place to test the product for countries with like an Anglo background. Just because like there's 25 million people and it's way easier to sort of
same population as what was it, California? Yeah,
pretty much. So, so final remarks. Please stop. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Can we stop for like 2 weeks so I can have a break from talking and thinking about...
You're talking about two of supposedly the biggest powers in the entire world between America and China.
I know.
It's going to keep on changing by the day, unfortunately.
This is just a Cold War played out in a late capitalistic setting. That's all this is. Yes. And yeah, like... Do you want to move on to more capitalistic things?
Sure, why not? I'm definitely
TikTok related for a change.
Capitalism, baby.
Capitalism. All right. So you brought this up to me because I did not even hear about it. This is the whole James Charles stealing design of
Teddy Fresh
hoodie from Teddy Fresh, which is the company owned by H3H3's Healer Klein. And Ethan says it's an exact copy. Thoughts?
So I mentioned this previously, but I do think it's a copy, but it might not be intentional in the sense that two parts of it. Number one, when you are creating a new product and you're taking your first steps into a new style of product, the best thing you can do to try and create something successful is copy.
100%.
And obviously, if you're someone as massive as James Charles, you probably don't want to admit that, hey, we did copy you. But at the end of at the same time, I don't think it's an issue if you do copy. And honestly, you would probably be better off if you do say, yeah, I did copy them. They're successful. I also want to be successful. But obviously, when you're a massive,
you would just say I took inspiration from it because it's softer language.
Yeah. But the other part of it is that when you have first of all, color blocking designs, definitely not original. Been around for ages, since however long ago. But with, before the 90s, it was all black and white because we didn't have color. Sorry. Everyone saw the world in black and white. But no. With color blocking, it's been around for ages, and there's certain colors that work. Like, you cannot put like dark blue and orange next to each other, but you can put like light blue and yellow next to each other. They do work. And so when you have only a certain set of colors that work well together for a color blocking design, obviously you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these work as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these don't work, go away. But then you'll end up with a limited number of possible designs, and one of them will naturally be the same as something that already exists.
Yep, absolutely. This is a common thing that actually happens in music. Now, if you play the guitar, there's only so many chords that you can make.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's so easy to accidentally come up with the same idea independently of somebody else. This has happened before. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember what the bands were, but now I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure Anthony Fantano of the Needle Drop actually spoke about this. And it's so easy. It happens all the time, especially in certain genres. Like if we're thinking like metalcore with breakdowns where it's just like ones and zeros on the guitar, like open string and then last fret of the fretboard on the top string. There's only so many like chugging noises you can make in different patterns before you accidentally copy somebody.
Did you see that video from like it's a super old video, like 10 years ago? Axis of Awesome. They did the 4-chord thing.
The 4-chord song. That's a great example, right? It's happens all the time, right? So it is possible, right, that James did copy it. But it's also very possible that James came up with the same idea independently and didn't actually see any of Teddy Fresh's stuff, right? It's also possible that James didn't even design it at all himself, and he has a team that works at Sistel Apparel.
He said it himself that, look, his team is the one that designed it. Obviously, he should be the one making the final call on it, but like maybe someone on his team had seen it. If he hadn't, then he might not realize that it's been copied.
Yeah, the team probably came up with like 3 or 4 different designs, right? Because it's all color blocks, so they probably just moved around what color goes where.
Yeah. And
he probably just picked the one that he liked the most. That's probably all the involvement he has. He's just the face of the brand.
Yeah.
That's it. This for him, this is not like, I know he's into fashion, but like when it comes to design, I think it's probably fair to assume that's not really his passion. The dude's into makeup, right? And that's his main love in life is makeup, as it would seem.
Yes.
With the very little exposure I've had to him.
Yeah.
Mainly only being through the Tardy Westbrook debacle of yesteryear.
Shame we didn't start this podcast earlier. That would have been a whole bit of fun to talk about.
There wasn't. I don't even know. I don't even think there was that much to talk about. I think it was just
It was just a very
sad.
elongated situation.
Yeah, it was like, oh, who would have thought that a person that was like 18 or 19 would make some stupid decisions?
No.
And
18 and 19-year-olds, perfect creatures.
Yeah, and who would have like, and also it's kind of like the whole like Tati like being salty that he spruiked somebody else's brand.
With how much she cried, she was clearly very salty. No, but I did want to mention that I think that this is a whole lot of people not being able to communicate properly.
Yes.
And I get that, like, when you are in a relationship, yes, you learn how to communicate with each other better. And these two people, very little like relations between the two. So it makes sense that one of them communicates in one way, another communicates in another way. That's fine.
Ethan and James?
Yeah, Ethan and James, two very different people, do not know how is the best way to approach one of the other person. And so Ethan finding Charles's responses, combative and dismissive, that's just probably his tone and how he talks. And they've not spoken before, so they don't know how the other person tends to speak.
I mean, we've all met people before where you sort of just give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't know how to interact with people nicely.
Yeah.
And they don't mean anything by it.
But I think if everyone's just, I guess in a perfect world, this would be the situation. If everyone was just like, hey, this looks kind of similar to my thing. Oh, shit, I didn't realize. Let me do something about that. Then there's like an actual progressive communication. Whereas here, it's like one person's trying to defend their brand and trying to defend their ethics, which is completely unnecessary, I think, in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem that James actually did try to reach out to Ethan, and apparently Ethan did the same. But I'm kind of the wrong person to talk about this. I feel like I'm over like YouTube drama on Twitter.
Okay.
I just think that like if it were up to me, it's as simple as either James actually did copy Ethan's not even Ethan's design, Healer's design, right? Or he didn't do it, and then you just like figure it out as adults.
At the end of the day,
right?
Like
you're two business owners, just
people
like,
who
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
You're business owners, right? You're in the business of doing business.
Yes.
Well, maybe part of it. Did you know that part of business is also working out disputes and disagreements? Maybe you should figure out how to do that. Yeah, who would have thought? Like, just email them. Like, start an email chain and figure it out like a normal business. Why do you have to go to Twitter about it?
Yes. I think the Twitter part of it was because they weren't able to make any progress in the DMs. And so forcing someone's hand is basically Twitter going public with the situation now. But the other part I was thinking of mentioning was that, and it's slightly slipped my mind now again. This keeps on happening to me every single week. I've got a point in mind and I can't remember it when I actually have a moment to talk.
It's you're in the moment. It's all the adrenaline.
Yeah. It's all the pent up emotion. But it's really a like non-story if everyone's just able to communicate better.
Who would have thought that this could have not been a thing if these people who are owners of businesses, right, could have just spoken about it instead of cracking the shits over Twitter. That's the other thing. You said DM.
Yes.
Fucking act like a business and email the person responsible.
No, it's social media these days.
It's just like, now I would understand if this was just YouTube drama beef, right? And you were reaching out to another YouTuber, as a YouTuber to another YouTuber to say your grievances with them and their actions. But when you have Sister Apparel, right, James's brand, potentially stealing the design of Healer's brand, Teddy Fresh, you are now acting as business owners talking to another business owner. So act like it. Right? Like it's just it's not even the most egregious form of stealing either, like a design. Like this is going to be a video experience. So if you're listening to it right now, I don't know, jump on YouTube.
Oh, the pillar.
Look at this shit. Right, yeah, it's backwards because the camera's backwards.
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
camera's mirrored, right? It's quite clearly it's quite clearly the Nike logo with the word death. Like it's obviously recognizable, and this is from a Melbourne brand, Cool Shirts. Man, this part of the audio is going to be so echoey because I'm so far away from the microphone and my room sounds like shit. But like,
hey, you're the editor, man. You did this to yourself.
I hate myself. But the point being is that people do this all the time,
Yes.
right? And that was clearly intentional. Like, I don't know, maybe you could class it as like commercial parody.
I think parodies are
Right?
a different thing.
Yeah, but like Nike could probably sue them
They could.
for that. It's quite clearly using a registered trademark.
Yes.
So
I guess the entire issue it comes down to is, has anyone managed to trademark color blocking?
that's a good question because Cadbury did actually trademark the particular color purple that they use on their packaging.
Huh.
Right? So yeah, that belongs to Cadbury. So, you know, if you're into making chocolate, don't use that color. Just like this whole, I would go into like into a whole bunch of weird things that have been copyrighted or trademarked. Like if we think about genetically modified food or genetically modified organisms, whatever you want to call them, you know, which could potentially go very off topic, and I don't feel like being the Pete Evans of the show, so I'm not really going to go into it that much. But the point being is Monsanto, who people may recognize one of their brands as Roundup, right, which is the weed killer. They own the genetic makeup of I believe, a pest-resistant canola. They own the genetic makeup of that. Like you can copyright anything now. You can patent anything. And what's crazy about that, this is even worse than whatever this is like happened. Because if you're a farmer that grows canola, this is really off track. If you're a farmer that grows canola that isn't genetically modified, and then you've got some other guy a couple of kilometers away, right?
Yeah.
Growing the Monsanto patented genetically modified canola, and then they cross-pollinate,
You're screwed.
right? Monsanto now owns, like legally, your stuff, and you have to pay royalties to them.
Which is, I get that there's,
Now, I'm not
oh man, that's rough.
I'm not suggesting that either James or Ethan is Monsanto at this point, but the idea of what you brought up is like, did they actually trademark the design? I'm not really sure how like that works with fashion.
Yes.
If you can trademark, or if I know with music, when you release a song, it already has an automatic copyright, I believe. Right? I'm not sure if it's the same with clothing. I know that there are certain logos obviously trademarked, right? I think I'm trying to remember. I've just remembered there was a really great episode of 99% Invisible, which is actually a design podcast. If people are interested in design, I recommend checking it out. And they were talking about this. They were talking about knockoffs, which was actually a really interesting episode. And they were saying that there was this guy who he did some really prolific designing in the African American community, a clothing design in the African American community. I don't know, way back when. I'm not really sure of the decade, but he designed I think it was like an all over Gucci suit, right? Like a leather suit with Gucci logos everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Gucci cracked it because he was using their branding
Yes.
on his design.
Yep.
Right. And then a couple of years ago, Gucci released one of their new lines, and it was the splitting image of the thing that he designed. But because you can only, I believe the thing was you could only copyright 2D things, that for whatever reason, this wasn't like the suit itself wasn't trademarkable. So he never got any credit for it or any kickbacks for it. So I don't know how that plays in. I am no copyright expert.
Yeah. Copyright itself is a massive rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. So as for this, I think they should have just been business owners.
Should have been business owners.
Like
they need to start operating via email, honestly, because when you're on, like, if you're operating on something like I don't know, Instagram DMs or Twitter DMs, it's like you're so close to a place that you can publicly release all that information.
But the other thing is like just professionalism.
Yeah.
As well. Like, I understand, like, like I said before, if you had YouTube beef with James, right? If Ethan had YouTube beef with James, Twitter's a good option.
Yes.
Right? I prefer if you DM them before you say anything publicly for obvious reasons. But if you're acting as a business owner at this point, just use email the right people, go through the motions of it all. Yeah, it sucks, but like, you're a business, not everything about business is pleasurable.
Maybe maybe at the end of maybe this is I don't know, someone's attempt, one of the parties' attempts to force someone's hand, and the other trying to respond to that. These might also be business tactics. One person is trying.
It could be. There could be ulterior motives to this.
Which
I wouldn't doubt it.
Again, all of these just come down to people being able to communicate better. And
yes,
I don't expect that this will go anywhere. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think that this, as with a lot of online stories, is going to be something that is just forgotten by, I don't know, 2 days. Give it 2 days.
Yeah.
People won't care.
Yeah. People won't care.
Because Teddy Fresh, it has its own fans. Like, even for a clothing, for a clothing brand, it has its own fans. The same thing is going, at least with, I think, James Charles, his clothing brand is much more tied to his name because of the name of the brand, Sisters Apparel. He calls his entire fan base sisters. So
yeah.
I guess it's more tied to him. So his fans are more likely to get his clothing. But with Teddy Fresh, it is an entire brand. Almost, I wouldn't say it's independent of H3H3, but it is very much not. If I think Teddy Fresh, I might have honestly found it without thinking about H3H3.
Yeah, it comes across as a separate entity.
Yeah. So like, they're gonna have their own fans. James is gonna have his own fans for his items. So people are probably not going to like mistake the two. And so again, this feels like an entirely like a non-story. You know what does feel like a story though?
Is it hamburger? Is it hamburgers? Yes, I know this. So on this episode of Not Quite Online, this week Not Quite Online,
the advertising is online. Come on, you've seen the ads on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. I've also seen them on Tully as well.
Oh, really?
But,
okay.
Yeah. But this is kind of similar, as you were mentioning before, of the whole Big Mac thing. So for those in the unawares, which is probably nobody in Australia at this point, I would imagine.
Unless you have
Hungry
Adblock.
Jacks. Yeah, unless you have ad block, or you don't watch TV, or you don't go outside. I mean, if you're in Victoria, you might not be going outside. Okay, right? Never mind. Scrap that. But that's only 5 million people, right? There's another 20 million that would be outside. Don't worry about it. This is a dumb episode.
It really is. But why not, man? Things are dumb right now anyway. Who cares?
Oh, wow. It's so evident that we're so poorly prepared for this episode. Anyway. So for those unaware, for those abroad, Hungry Jack's is just Burger King. I believe the reason for it being called Hungry Jack's has something to do with like a trademark dispute. Or there's already a business here in Australia called Burger King prior to them coming here. So it's Hungry Jack's. So Hungry Jack's has, I don't know, I feel like I've been barraged with ads for the last month and a half, 2 months about this hamburger.
Too many.
Yeah. And it's been a series of ads at this point. And
actually,
as well.
I want to just quickly make a quick point off of this. I'm vegetarian. I've always been vegetarian. I've never searched up anything related to meat. And I would expect that YouTube and Google would understand that. And yet, for some reason, even I was seeing this ad, and it makes no sense to me why I was seeing this ad.
Yeah. Like, you just would have been in the age bracket and they would have sent it to you.
But something a bit more related, surely.
Yeah. It would have just probably the brief was Australian, old enough to buy a hamburger by himself, or themselves rather.
Yeah,
and
old enough to use Uber Eats by themselves.
Yes. So the Big Jack, right, is obviously a heavily inspired culinary delight, very similar to the Big Mac. Many characteristics. You have like the weird 3 bun where you got the top and the middle one and the bottom. 2 patties, sesame seed bun, which is very bougie. And then you've got 2 patties, you got lettuce, and you've got your special sauce, which is just, as far as I'm aware, just tomato sauce and mayonnaise mixed together. There might be mustard in that.
Cheese.
And cheese, of course, cheese. So, obviously, Big Mac, it's probably been around since McDonald's was McDonald's, I would assume. It's obviously very intrinsically linked or entwined within the McDonald's brand. So, it's kind of understandable that McDonald's might be kind of pissed off with Hungry Jack's. And in a brilliant marketing move. Actually, you know what? This is online. You know why?
It is online. I'm telling you.
The next thing I'm about to say is because Hungry Jack's went, haha, this burger's here and it's ours and there's nothing you can do about it. And so in the ad, they say they're being sued by an American fast food restaurant. And they don't actually name who it is that's suing them.
Because they're not allowed.
Sort of describing, probably because they're not allowed. But this is, in my opinion, this is a brilliant piece of marketing because not only do you drum up controversy, which always gets people curious about what it's actually like, but it's also very memey, which is super good for online ads, right? Now, KFC tried to do this years ago with the stupid freaking ad of spicy goodness, eat it like a boss, right? You must have seen this ad. Look it up later or don't. I don't really mind. You're probably better off not ever seeing that ad. But that was a terrible attempt at trying to harness internet culture for marketing purposes, right? It was clearly just a bunch of people sat around the table, had no idea what they were doing. Where this is perfect because it's kind of cheeky and it's kind of like, what are you going to do about it? You know, it's very memey and I do enjoy the advertising.
And obviously being first to like say something about this publicly really helps Hungry Jack's because I still haven't seen anything from McDonald's side.
I even read 1 or 2 articles about it, and still silence from McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is obviously working very well for Hungry Jack's. Well enough that I tried it. I tried the burger, and I can confirm that the burgers are better at Hungry Jack's. I do actually think it's better. It's roughly the same price, I believe. You get more burger. And the sauce, in my opinion, is a bit nicer. And you'd also proper onion, right? Why do they always use at McDonald's the onion that looks like head lice? Right? I want to be able to taste the onion. I don't want to just have to like see it and go, oh, I guess that's onion. It is a superior product. The Big Jack is a superior product than the Big Mac. I said it.
Oh. But we're not getting that Macca's sponsorship, are we?
No, but I am planning on a Hungry Jack sponsor, please. So it's kind of similar. Obviously, in this case, Hungry Jack's has just blatantly copied.
100% they've copied
McDonald's and then just beat them at their own game, in my opinion.
Like,
and not even in my opinion. Motoring Box is a YouTube channel on YouTube. He did a comparison. He took out his trusty AU Falcon and the mobile office accessory, which you could get for your AU, which made it that you got a table, right, for your that sat on the center console. Like it would sit in the cup holder and it sit on the gear on the gear lever. And then you would get a table so you could do your work and stuff. Yeah. Great memery all around. He said it was better, and he essentially highlighted the same reasons that I did, is that you get more burger, roughly the same price, tastes better. McDonald's, step up your game.
Yeah, basically, if you want to say that someone else is copying you, then you got to have a product of similar quality.
Yeah, I want to see a burger war. I want to see an escalation.
Obviously, this has to be the best thing for like consumers, because now Macca's has to be forced to create a better product.
Or they could just squash
they
Hungry Jack's,
they either just get
a smaller company in Australia.
Like their entire burger line just gets completely destroyed, or they have to create a better product. Which,
I mean, I would say that Hungry Jack's on the whole, there's things left to be desired over certain McDonald's burgers. I don't think it's all in the bin for McDonald's. I just think the Big Jack did what the Big Mac was doing, but just way better, and they're mad about it. So.
Just be better, Macca's. Be better.
Just be better. Just be better, and
get good.
Yeah, stay mad. I suppose. Who's also mad is people at Spotify who are upset with the fact that Joe Rogan, as most of you will know by this point, has an exclusive deal with Spotify to service the Joe Rogan experience and deliver both the audio and video on their platform. Spotify even went out of their way pretty much just for this to implement video in Spotify. So
this is
it's a big deal.
I actually want to mention one other part about this story, which is a bit strange, because right now the situation is that Spotify employees and obviously people around Spotify are trying to get certain episodes of the Joe Rogan experience pulled from Spotify. But then just a few weeks ago, so many people were up in arms thinking that Joe Rogan himself and so many of the people he's interviewed are being censored because certain episodes were not available on Spotify. And people were like, people like Alex Jones are having a, something put over their mouths, and their voices aren't getting out there. And even Alex Jones himself had to say there was not a controversy around this, which is pretty insane to me.
This is the man. He's like, I'm breaking the conditioning.
The freaking frogs.
Yeah. So, who would have thought that Alex Jones would have been the level-headed person in all of this? I definitely would have thought that.
Yeah. Alex Jones, the level-headed, the voice of reason.
The voice of reason.
He was essentially like previously people were saying, yeah, no, you guys are censoring Alex Jones and all the people like a lot of the people that Joe Rogan has interviewed, and now they're saying no, these episodes should be censored. Not these episodes in particular, the ones that weren't there, but certain other episodes that are on Spotify shouldn't be there anymore. Which is basically like two completely opposite parties now. There's clearly two sides of this situation where some people are saying that everything he said should be there for people to hear and understand his opinion. Other people are saying, no, this can poorly educate people and hurt the name's too long for me to say anymore. The LGBTQIA plus community.
Yes. So it's the thing to me though is the fact that when Joe Rogan signed up, he was assured, right, and he assured the fans, right, that JRE would not change.
Yeah.
Right? The Joe Rogan experience would stay the same. The only difference was it was now on Spotify. That was it, right? So he would be able to talk to who he wanted to talk to, and they would be able to pretty much say whatever they wanted to say, right? Because if out of all the criticism that you can give to Joe, he is a lover of conversations always has been, right? He's just curious to find out what somebody else thinks. Now, he probably doesn't agree with even half of the things that people say on that show to him, right? But what I do respect about him is he's willing to listen. And you got to love that, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't agree with Ben Shapiro, right? But I'm not upset that he was on the Joe Rogan
And the
experience.
other thing is, like, this is just for, like, life in general, but the way to... If you disagree with someone, the way to, either change that or deal with that is not to drown them out. It's not to, like, disable them from having a voice.
Yeah.
Like,
just don't listen.
You either don't listen or you have a discussion with them, or you at least try to understand where they're coming from so you can ask questions about that and change that. But completely silencing someone, it's why people were upset. Essentially, it's why Donald Trump got elected. Yeah, pretty much is and the fact that the Democrats didn't take him seriously enough. Yeah, obviously that was a major part.
Massive oversight. Yeah, massive bra moment. Yeah, thanks for that, DNC.
But you cannot just silence someone in order to deal with the fact that they have a different opinion to you.
No. Now, the whole hullabaloo blew up because there were Spotify employees who were upset with the fact that people had made transphobic comments or comments perceived as transphobic on the Joe Rogan experience. And they want them taken down. And as we said, that goes against the whole idea of JRE, and it even goes against the agreement that they had. I mean, if you work for any big company, there's a whole host of decisions that you probably won't agree with, right? Because it doesn't fit within your morals, and it doesn't agree with you on a political level as well. But that's what happens when you work with a huge company.
Yeah, and again, the other part of it is like, do you know how many Joe Rogan Experience episodes there are?
Many, many thousand. I know it's well over 1,000 now. I don't know if it's.
I mean,
is it 2,000?
As of September 11th, I believe there's 1,535. I don't know if he's released more episodes since then.
That's a lot.
But, like, each of these episodes, like they're a good hour long, I believe.
Yeah.
And an hour, basically 1,535 hours of talking. Like, you're going to say things, and the vast majority of the time, Joe Rogan himself has clearly made it, like, he's made it super clear that what he's saying is a joke. Yeah. And like, this is I guess it's going on a bit of a tangent, but with people like Kevin Hart and how they have been attacked for jokes in their past, it's really, really rough. Like, honestly, comedians have the roughest jobs because jokes are appropriate at a certain time and then they become no longer appropriate. And then you just get canceled.
Yeah.
And this is like when you have 1,535 hours of talking and you're making jokes within that, there's going to be jokes that 1,535 episodes of hours ago were okay and are no longer okay.
Especially considering how long like this was over. This is over like 10 plus years. This is well over a decade worth of content.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff has changed since then. This man, right, Joe and his show it doesn't really have an agenda apart from I want to talk to interesting people, right? This is Joe has had on Alex Jones and Bernie Sanders, right? And he's just interested to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
You know? And not to mention, if he wasn't able to have Alex Jones on, that would be a travesty because we'd never get some of the classic lines that we now have.
It would be a real crime against the internet to not have those.
Honestly, it was such a funny episode. I did enjoy listening to it a lot. But yeah, I think it's okay for the Spotify employees to have an opinion on the Joe Rogan experience, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't even particularly like the Joe Rogan experience that much, right?
You've mentioned plenty of times the 20 minutes of ads at the start of the episode.
Oh,
and he's like basically just
half an hour. I listened to one episode the other day. It was like half an hour of ads at the start.
And his entire shtick being and.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of guilty of that as well. Yes. We've only been doing 6 episodes. Not doing that 1 week has really thrown off my counting for the episodes. It's really stuffed me up.
But I think at the end of the day, this is like the only way you can support a podcast is by listening to it. So yeah, if you don't support him and what he is saying, then just don't listen. Yeah. That's all it is. Like, it doesn't hurt for I will say it does hurt for certain things to be available to watch or listen to, as we will discuss very soon.
Cuties.
But this is not one of them.
No, I don't think it is either. And not to mention, like, you know, you've listened back to the episodes that we've done, and you've all probably listened back to the Beancast episodes. You go, why did I say that? Like, you're so, like, with the podcast, like, you're trying to balance having, especially if you're having a conversational podcast, you're trying to balance what seems to the appearance of a real conversation happening, right, between two people, while also being presentable and trying to keep the flow up, right? Because nobody wants to listen to a stagnant conversation. It's boring as hell, right? Yeah, Joe's been doing a lot, so he's quite, you know, he's quite good at it. But you still go to make mistakes when you go, what the hell was I thinking?
1,535. Like, obviously, that's 15 days ago. I don't know if there's been new episodes since then, but like, my goodness.
Yeah, I can't remember who said this. It was on another podcast. And the guest on it, he was a radio presenter.
Yeah.
And he said, radio is throwaway creativity, right? Because you say it once and nobody ever listens again. Right? So it doesn't stick around that much.
Yes.
Right? Because one of the biggest radio hosts ever in Australia, Alan Jones, he said some shocking things, but on air. Like, I got away with it because it's on air. Like, it's live, and you're probably, a majority of people will never, ever listen again, right? Because it may be difficult to find or whatever it may be, right? But with the podcast, it stays around. That's the beauty of that's one of the beauty of podcasts is if I wanted to, I could pick up, I don't know, probably the longest running one I listened to is Radiolab, and I could go back bloody whenever it started, like 2013 or whatever it may be. which is pretty much internet ancient history at this point. So that's the other thing. Yeah, as you said, like what was funny, what was acceptable with Kevin Hart, the example of Kevin Hart, what was funny 10 years ago and acceptable to say 10 years ago is not the same in 2020.
And like he
right?
said, people learn. Like, just like these
People
things will
learn, people
continue to
adapt.
exist. That's the thing. Like these episodes will continue to exist. He can't, like, even Kevin Hart, if he did a comedy show 10 years ago, it will still exist.
Yeah.
But as he said himself, he has learned. He has stopped making those kinds of jokes.
Yeah. It's the other thing is like shows like Mrs. Doubtfire, like movies like Mrs. Doubtfire probably wouldn't be allowed to be made today, right? Considering the cultural climate. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you, right? But in my opinion, it's a pretty innocuous movie. Like it's just Robin Williams being Robin Williams for an hour and a half. And even Norbit, right, which is a dumpster fire of a film, probably wouldn't be allowed to be made either. That was like 2008.
Yeah.
It's not that long ago. It's just I don't think the Joe Rogan experience should be censored.
The thing is, like, at the end of the day, you don't have to listen. This is 100% a situation where you do not have to listen. Like, if people, it's not like a show where you have to like listen. It's not like the radio where one part of the thing that you want to listen to is blocked by another part that you have to listen to. You could just say, like, people will talk about the episode and say this is what's in the episode, and then you can make a decision whether you want to listen to that episode or not.
Yeah,
it's completely your decision.
Yeah. And the other thing is like a conversational podcast, like you don't know where they're going to end up sometimes as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like when you're making one, that's one thing you really find out is like you just see where it goes.
I mean,
and that's why in the very short history of this podcast, we've gone off topic so many times,
which is fantastic, by the way. But
yeah, because it's a conversation.
Yes,
it's not static. Who would have thought?
I think that's about time to move off of that. You seem tired of this already.
I've just it's just annoying because it's the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
And like I understand why people would be sensitive, because it's just like the thing of jokes are scientifically less funny when they're about your demographic.
Yes.
Right, 100% is less funny, and it's how you choose to deal with that, right? It's up to you. It's not up to, in my opinion, it's not up to the comedian as long as they're not saying something like purposefully hurtful, right? If they're just making a joke, they're just making a joke, right? Fat Pizza is a great example of this, right? Because the whole show, which has been going since it was started like in 2004, is just one big piss take of Australian culture, right? And you know what? In Australia, very multicultural country, right? And it's something that we should be proud of, the fact that it's multicultural, right? But in a very Australian fashion, we also like taking the piss out of ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And that's all it's about. It's not vilifying or demonizing anybody. It's just poking fun, right? And yeah, sometimes that can go too far. But like the Joe Rogan experience is such that it's not beyond criticism, clearly, right? But it's definitely you couldn't censor that sort of show because then it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work otherwise. And speaking of things that should be censored,
yes, not just censored, but essentially removed from existence, maybe.
Yeah, please.
The Netflix film Cuties. I cannot believe, and I'm going to be slow with this one because it genuinely hurts to talk about it. But this cannot exist. It simply cannot. Like the movie, the premise itself of children, look, children dancing has been around for a long time. That's fine. But this is simply sexualizing children. There's no other way to say it. It is a cover for pedophilia.
Yeah, it's pedophile bait.
And I cannot believe how delusional the director of the movie it was or is. She, in fact, is a Black and French woman.
Yeah.
And she herself was essentially saying that she was trying to, bring about her own feelings of being part of two cultures and trying to figure out how to be herself within that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you listen to the interview and you haven't heard anything about the movie itself, her message is fine. She keeps on referring to young women and how they are sexualized. But these are children. These are little girls, not women. The children in this, the movie is MA15 plus, and the movie, the main character of the movie is 11 years old.
Yeah, so legally they wouldn't be allowed to watch it without a parental guardian.
How? Yeah. And she asks a question in this, which is essentially, the objectification of a woman's body, isn't that, another kind of oppression in Western culture? Yes, it is. But what you are doing is putting that on a bigger platform and making it publicly visible for everyone. There are so many parts in this movie that simply do not need to be focused on. And you've seen the clips as well of they're dancing on stage. And if this was a story about how she identifies between two cultures, then you wouldn't have entire scenes focusing on her back, on the children's backsides while they twerk.
Yeah. There's like full-on crotch shots. I'm pretty sure another YouTuber was saying that there's like a whole scene where they just rip off the girl's top and she's bare-chested.
Which is like, again,
but
there could have been a message with this. There could have been. That this is not the way to do it. I mean,
think there is a message. It's just being shrouded by stupid decisions.
And
right?
This, there's so many things wrong about this. For one thing, I mean, look, there's the factors of YouTube allowing clips of this on YouTube. Like, if this was any small YouTuber uploading something like this, it would be struck, it would be removed. The YouTuber would have their entire channel removed from the platform. Netflix, that's fine. That's one thing. But this film itself, I just keep coming back to how delusional the director of the film the creator of the film was, because she sounds like she's describing some sort of, documentary about how society influences a girl's worth. And instead, the movie has lost everything when they are children that are being hypersexualized. Again, I'm no movie director. I'm no storyteller. So I don't know what the best way to depict all of this would be. But
it wasn't this.
It wasn't this.
It wasn't this.
And again, I cannot believe Netflix, a company with American values, is saying, hey, that's fine. Go ahead. Put this on our platform.
Maybe that is American values now. I don't know. Maybe we're out of touch.
Because
maybe we're out of touch.
I just cannot. I cannot fathom how this, people, some people higher up in higher up in Netflix saw this film and thought, this is the one. Go ahead. Put this out there. It can exist.
Yeah. It's definitely not a decision that either you or I would make. Yeah, look, I want them to delete it. I mean, that's the long and short of it. But there was ways and there was ways. Now, I do think a movie that has the same sort of ideas or wanting to go into the same topic is a good idea for a film. But there are ways and there are ways of showing this and doing this, right?
Like, I'm gonna
and
be,
they chose the wrong way.
There are scenes in this thing which honestly are not terrible. There was one moment in this where Amy, the main character, I'm gonna be clear, I didn't watch this. This is clips that are coming out. She doesn't like her hair because it's got it's like the curls for an almost like a semi-afro. She wants to get rid of them. She gets an iron and she tries to iron out her hair to straighten it out. Yeah. And like those kinds of scenes, they hit hard.
Yeah.
Like I understand how like difficult it can, I can understand from that how much society impacts you.
Yeah.
But the other message of this and the message of this, it's completely ruined when the major part of the movie is young girls twerking.
Yeah. It's just it's like, how far away from it really is it? From a highly produced softcore porn of like a child softcore porn film. It's not that far.
No.
Everybody joked about how Game of Thrones was just porn. All right? Like, this is bad. Like, this shouldn't, in the way that it is, it shouldn't be allowed. This is like, there's always those things about, is it even ethical of having children on the film set? Because filming takes ages. You know, it takes a long time. And then throw that out the window because we have an even bigger issue of like, is this child exploitation?
I mean, for one thing, if it was exploitation, they wouldn't be getting paid for their roles.
You can be paid and still be exploited.
It depends I guess, what is the payout? Were they, you know what? I saw a one video of how the French directors put the tried to advertise the movie to Netflix or to Hulu, and they essentially said, yes, we brought a small puppy along and made them pet it, and then said, yes, you can pet the puppy if you do the acting in this.
I saw something about that.
Which
this world makes me tired, Prad. It makes me really tired.
I don't want to talk about it. Do you want to talk any more about this?
No.
All right, can we finish off with that then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really want to leave it on that note, but it is kind of fitting for the episode so far, I think.
This part, I didn't want to have to make notes on a movie about child exploitation and child hypersexualization.
Yeah.
It's
just the wrong way to go about it. Like, I get, like, this is an important thing. This could have been an important film.
Yes.
Right? But now it's important for the wrong reasons.
And I mean,
like, whatever point you have made is overshadowed by the fact that it's just pedophile bait.
When there are children in the film, this could have been directed towards, put towards children and showing them how children are affected by the actions of other people around them. But then you make the film MA15 plus, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, that's all out the window. Like,
bad decisions.
This is a poor message to anyone.
I think, you know what? This episode is kind of just, it's got one overarching theme, which is essentially bad decisions.
There's your title. There's your title.
Like TikTok, you know, bad decision potentially by Trump for banning it, and also the decision by all three parties involved to not have their minds made up before making press releases. A whole James Charles, Teddy Fresh thing, whole host of bad decisions there, especially trying to make it public instead of acting like business owners and, sorting it out like business owners should do. McDonald's helping Hungry Jacks essentially make even more money by give them great advertising material. Because you can't be misleading with ads. It's illegal, right?
Yes.
But you can use lawsuits to your advantage, it would seem. So I think Mr. Jack, who is hungry, should be giving Mr. McDonald a big pat on the back for that one. To be fair, there's no real decision about what Spotify's going to do. All they did was really make a meeting because some of their employees were upset with particular episodes of the JRE, but that would be a terrible decision to censor the Joe Rogan experience, in my opinion. I mean, so far there've been as far as have there been any white nationalists on the Joe Rogan experience?
I'm not an active listener of the Joe Rogan experience. So
no, nor am I. But if there was to be any episode that was censored, maybe if he had Richard Spencer, on, maybe that might be a good one, depending on what they spoke about and if there was a particularly strongly points with that aren't very nice. I don't know how else to put it. Maybe you could make the argument for censoring that episode. I probably agree with that. And then Cuties, like the whole direction, the thought of, how I will combat child sexualization, sexualized children in my film. Great idea. Who would? What are you thinking?
What an absolute genius.
Oh, yeah, this episode. Oh my God.
I think the director of Cuties, Maimona, I can't pronounce these French names, de Coqueret, is a failure as a director and as a female, if I'm being honest.
Oof.
How? Look, she's probably never going to listen to this episode. If she does, I hope she hears that because she deserves it. And yeah, I'm done, man. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Let's wrap this up in a big old garbage bag. Guys, if you enjoyed this dumpster fire of an episode, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below for the good old YouTube engagements. Make sure to follow the show on Instagram and our personal accounts if you're into that sort of thing. And until next time, stay safe.
Take care.